literature and literary history is something very exciting, very dramatic, sometimes even requiring courage. The whole power of literature is that it affects all of us, and it brings out new ideas and new passions in each of us. And that idea really drives all three of these novels. One difference in the 19th century from today is that there was not a clear difference in the minds of the readers between fiction and nonfiction. Even in the case of a novel, for example, Moby Dick, when we read the reviews that were written by the book critics, they discuss Herman Melville, the author, being on this adventure looking for the whale. In other words, they could not differentiate between the character in the book and the author of the books. In the 19th century, Dante was not known at all in the United States except by a few people. Foreign literature was something to be distrustful of. He was also an Italian and, most of all, Catholic. And these were things that frightened Americans who heard that Italians were full of violence and passion and revolutionary ideas, and that Catholicism was something mystical, magical, and even dangerous. The act of translating Dante was not just one of scholarship, it was really one of courage. What's very interesting about Edgar Allan Poe is today we love reading his work, like The Raven and other poems. However, in his own day, Poe was considered not very talented, not very successful. When he died with no money, very little reputation, and very few people cared. In fact, in his death, he had really disappeared. He had vanished. We don't even know exactly what happened when he died, which is part of the mystery unfolded in my own book. Charles Dickens is the complete opposite of Edgar Allan Poe because in his own time, he had enormous popularity, probably the most famous writer in the entire world. And this stems from several things. One, he wrote his novels for everybody. Because Dickens was so popular, when he dies and he leaves an unfinished novel, people are clamoring for the ending. And in fact, it becomes a very big commercial prospect if somebody could publish the ending of The Mystery of Edwin Drood or discover how it would end. It would mean huge amounts of money. And so this became a competition among publishers, among readers and scholars to try to discover that ending. And that was the starting point for my own book. Another element of my book that I was excited about are the Buccaneers, which was the name I gave a group of book pirates. These were real people whose job it was to discover manuscripts as they reached the United States from England, or as they reached England from the United States, and to steal or otherwise obtain these manuscripts in order to sell it to the highest bidder among the publishers. So this was a really interesting way to think about publishing at a time when it was not only pretty new, but also even dangerous. My three novels that I have published are connected in some ways by the themes. However, they could be read independently of each other. And I hope that by reading one, a reader might want to read the others. But one thing I am always careful about is that a reader does not need any prior background, including in Charles Dickens or Dante or Poe, before reading my books.